So this is our bug bounty sessions or demo bug bounty session. How actually bug bounty? What is exactly bug bounty? So how you can become a bug bounty hunter and how you can prepare a report for making a bug bounty. So even if you are a tester or a skilled person, but most of the people's I found they are somebody lagging in how to create a proper report for a bug bounty. So today we are going to see about entire thing about what is bug bounty, how to be a bug bounty hunter, what is your best platform to get into a bug bounty and everything. Okay, so before going to the slides, so just about myself. So myself as Satyanarayana, I'm a security engineer, senior penetration tester. I'm a red teamer, so in a certified, I'm a OACP and a CH practical person. Okay, to finding bugs, so we all know what is bug. So bug is a mistake or a vulnerability or a glitch that is unusual to the application that may lead a risk to the application. That is actually bug. To finding a bug and reporting the bug, that is actually bug bounty. Bounty means reward. Okay, so for example, see here I am the business owner. I have an application. I also have my internal cybersecurity team. My internal cybersecurity team will entirely test my application, but even when they are testing, they failed to find some vulnerabilities. So, but those vulnerabilities are still presenting in my application. So right now, what how I can go to bug bounty platform is I make open challenge to all the security peoples in a bug bounty platform. So which is I host my application or my product and I challenge hackers to hack my product. So if the hackers found any different way to hack into my application, they make a test and they make report to me. Yes, this is a mistake is presenting in your website. So for that, what I'll do is I provide a reward to the concerned security persons. Okay, either it may be a reward or a hoodie or any swag. So this is actually bug bounty. So here using this bug bounty, you can earn money as a legal using a hacking knowledge. So to be a bug bounty hunter, you should have to have must have the offensive security knowledge. That is a very important thing. Okay, and even most of the peoples are confused with what is exactly bug bounty, what is the difference between bug bounty and penetration testing, what are all the types of penetration testings are there. So that everything we are going to see here now. Super. To testing the application, see, before going to pen testing, we can see two things. Okay, so in general IT, it have a two part. One is developing, another one is testing. So developing is nothing but to create an application securely. Okay, so not even a securely, it is developing to develop the product. Okay, either it may be a web application, mobile application, or anything. Okay, to make a program and to run the script and finally making the output of the application, that is developing, we all know. And the next one is a testing. There are many testings out there: functionality testing, selenium testing, load testing, penetration testing. But apart from all this testing, penetration testing is much different. I'll tell you why this penetration testing is different, because this penetration testing is the assessment will be done only by the person who have the offensive hacking knowledge. Okay, so for example, if you want to be a functional tester, you have to test how the functionality in the applications are working. For example, if there might be any enter button or a login button or any other place, any other location, if the functionality will not properly working, so you have to find that one. So that is the role of functionality tester. And the selenium tester, load tester, so in doing a load testing, you will give the maximum load to the application to find how much load this application can able to withstand. But in the part of penetration testing, you are using your offensive hacking knowledge to find what are all the possible ways to get inside the application. That is penetration testing. See, I'll give you a clear example. Consider there is a bus. Okay, so there is a bus, and this bus having a two doors. One is in front, another one is in back. So now I locked this two door, and your task is to get inside the bus. So what are all the possibilities for here? So your task is to enter the bus. I locked the two doors. So now what are all the other possible ways to get inside the bus? Okay, so we can break the glass and go inside. If the window having a much enough space, we can try to enter by window or using emergency exit. Okay, or even if you are in the bus, you know very well there is a one more door in a driver seat. Okay, near to driver seat there will be one more door. So using that door you can able to enter into the bus. If you have a big window space, then using the window space you can able to enter, or using emergency exit. See, even if I locked the bus door but I kept the key near to the lock, then what you can do, you can easily take the key and make unlock and get into the bus. Even if I not lock properly, you can able to break that one and you can able to get into. See, now your task is to get into the bus, your challenge is locked. Okay, but what are all the other possible ways to get in? That is actually penetration testing. That is exactly penetration testing. Okay, so here in penetration testing, developers create a application. Okay, so here you have to test application. For example, generally when the developer creating application, they make the application secure, they lock the application, but you have to find out what are the other possible ways to get inside. See, for example, if they're having any SQL injection vulnerability, through that you can able to make authentication bypass and get into the application. Okay, so for example, if there is any unrestricted file upload vulnerability which can also lead to the remote code execution, then you can get the entire server shell. Okay, so these are the possible ways. For example, even if you have find cross scripting in search box, there you can exploit some session based attack, or you can perform any HTML injection based attack. Okay, or SSRF or file inclusion. So what are all the ways to get inside the application or get to expose the application data outside? So to testing this part is penetration testing. Okay, so now I hope you are clear with what is exactly penetration testing. Okay, so bug bounty is a part of penetration testing. So honestly, I suggest to go in a manual method. That is a really good way, because even I found most of the people are trying with the automation scanner to make a pen testing. That will be literally not good. We have to do everything manually, because automation scanner will only check the payload it have. But in manual method only, we can able to understand the application business logic and we can exploit the application through the business logic. Okay, so I'll tell you. So now you all have an idea about what is penetration testing. Okay, so penetration testing is a part of testing the application to find what are all the vulnerabilities or possible ways to get inside the application. So what are the possible ways attacker can make an advantage to get inside the data? Okay, so this is actually penetration testing. So if you did the same penetration testing in any application and finding the vulnerability, and you are making a reporting this vulnerability to the particular owner of the application or product, then it is a bug bounty. Okay, penetration testing is the entire process. See, for example, even I'll give you the more clear about penetration testing and bug bounty. In my personal experience, I'm telling you, if that is my client asking me to do a penetration testing, so I entirely check their application. I thoroughly check their application for all the vulnerabilities. So what are all the chance of vulnerabilities to present? So for example, in a session based, what kind of attack? In a authentication based, what kind of attack? In privilege based, what kind of attacks are there? I check most of the possible ways to get different attack in the same application. But in bug bounty, if I found any one issue and making reporting the issue, that will be a bug bounty. Okay, to doing the entire process is a penetration testing. So bug bounty is a part of penetration testing. The same thing, you are doing a penetration testing on XYZ website. For example, you consider there is a XYZ web application. Okay, I'll tell you the difference between website and web application also. So consider there is a XYZ web application. That XYZ web application, owner of the XYZ web application is challenging us. Okay, for our application is very secure and we are challenging the attackers or a penetration tester to test this application, finding a issue. So for example, if now you are the hacker, you take the challenge and you find some issues in application and reporting those issues to the owner. Now what the owner will do, they give some reward for your effort, because they have to make their application or product more secure. That is their job. Okay, so that is why when you are finding any bug, they give you reward and they fix that bug. Okay, so this is exactly happening in bug bounty and penetration testing. So before and more going into a theoretical, we can see practically how you can approach for the penetration testing. And before that, I'll tell you what are all the types of penetration testings are there and how you can do approach over that. For after all the security status, okay, then only they release update, and after that making the challenge in a bug bounty hunting. Okay, so that is totally based on your skill. For example, if I can't able to find a vulnerability, see, I am working in XYZ company and that is a product based company, I'm a product security analyst. So now I am completely testing my application, I failed to find some issues. Okay, so that might be their application, that application is not 100%, that application is not 100% secure. If I tell that application is secure, I've completely do pen testing but no issue, means here there might be I miss some issue. If there is a possible, if you are a very good bug bounty hunter, if you are a highly skilled penetration tester, you can find that issue. So that is why they are challenging. See, they are challenging is to make their product securely. That is the first thing. They do completely all the testing. Okay, so they completely do white box testing, black box testing, and everything. Their internal security team will hardly work to fix all the issue. After multiple tests and retest and patching, then only they release update. But why they are hosting in a bug bounty, still our application is vulnerable to any attack or not. So that is why they are seeking, not a challenge, they are seeking still is there any issue or not. So for example, if our internal team might be missing some issue, then what happens? See, for example, not all the persons working in the company are a skilled person, so might be they miss, or the persons who not working in the company might be higher skilled than anybody in their team. So that is why they are asking. You can take it like a freelancing work. Okay, you're not even a bug bounty, you can just take it like a freelancing work. See, you are a tester, you have a very good skill. So here I am the application security engineer. I completely test application, but I failed to find some vulnerability. I missed it. So after the issue, what happened? After the hosting, after everything, once you testing the application, if you find the same vulnerability, that will be your choice now. See, bug bounty is running in globally. Okay, so even Google having issue, Apple having issue, all the application having the issue. But it is about how we can exploit, how we can find that vulnerability, how expert we are to produce that issue. That is the matter. Okay, if they are releasing means it doesn't mean it is 100% security. Everything have vulnerable. Nothing is 100% security in this world. Okay, so the thing is our task to find what is the different way to exploit. See, generally I'll tell you the difference between on this one. So who on the mic? Okay, so here just consider, so I'm the person, I'm hosting application in this system. Okay, here I'm using Parrot Linux as my base machine. Hosting application from my system. If you can perform remote code execution means you get my system access instead of getting my application user access, you get my entire system access. Through that you can do anything. So that will be the issue of remote code execution. So that might be a possible to get a shell. If you get the shell, then everything will compromise. So that will be high critical vulnerability. To find remote code execution is not easy. Okay, that will be a difficult way. So even some application doesn't have the future to exploit. For example, I just tell you a clear difference between of some vulnerabilities. Okay, I hope you all know, some of you know about file inclusion attack, local file inclusion, remote file inclusion. So where we can find file inclusion attack? So wherever the application is getting the input file as a reference and loading all the input file data into the application, there we can find the file inclusion attack. So for example, if that application doesn't have that future mint, is it possible for file inclusion means? No. Okay, so that is why remote code execution is very hard to find. A web application issue. So for example, if you want to perform xss, sql injection, rce, file inclusion, csrf, ssrf, you have to put some effort. But they have any firewall, then brute force is also difficult, but it is a good option. Clickjacking, spf record is nothing but a sender policy framework. Okay, spf record, which means sender policy framework. So I'll tell you what is the sender policy framework. Generally, this is the security certificate will be installed through all the domain mails. For example, we all have a Gmail, Outlook mail at all. But if you are an employer and working in XYZ organization, you get, for example, if your name is Ajay, means Ajay at xyz.com, your company name. Okay, so for all the domain name, we have the company have to properly validate their SPF record and have to import their SPF record into their domain mail. Then only their domain name will be safe. Otherwise, anyone can able to spoof that mail. For example, here I'm the owner of xyz.com, so like CEO. So anyone can able to mail from CEO at xyz.com mail. That is a highly risky one. For example, see here we can take any live application as an example. Just for example, we take any application. Okay, so this Bajaj FinServe. So I'm just copying this domain name, and before that, I'm using some other tools like SPF checker online. So there are some website out there to find whether it have proper SPF record or not. So some famous like sites like this Kitterman, DMAC Analyzer. So there are some site. I'll tell you how easy to find this issue. Okay, see here I'm just copying this domain name bajajfinserv.com. Sorry, .in. Okay, and I'm going to this site DMAC Analyzer or Kitterman. So I'm just pasting the domain name here and I'm removing the dot and just checking this SPF record. Okay, so please wait. So what it's showing, checking valid SPF record. Okay, so you can check with some other sites like any site you can take for your reference. Okay, so for example, last time we take Bajaj Finance, you can take any site for just asking. So I'm copying this domain name and checking whether this having a proper SPF record or not. See what it's showing. You can check with multiple site. Okay, I'll tell you this is a very simple bug, but how dangerous it is. I'll show you. Okay, so any site you can take like we just scroll to find rootbus.in bbase. So we need that domain name to check whether they have proper SPF record or not. That is our task. So finding mail ID is very not so difficult. It is really easy. You can get a contact mail. Okay, so for example, if you go to any website contact page means you can get the contact mail now. Okay, see here the helpdesk at capn.in. So there will be some site like see using this. I hope you all know about the site EMIC, fake email sender. Okay, so using this site, what you can able to do is you can able to make mail spoofing. You can able to send mail from anybody mail. So for example, if they having a proper SPF record, then the mail will send with like spoofing or like any spam. It like so if they doesn't have any proper SPF validation, then this mail will deliver to the person as like a genuine mail. See, I'm opening a temp mail here now from name. Just for example, I'm putting it like KPN Travels from email. So I'm just using this temp mail for this testing purpose. Just so don't use for any malicious purpose. If you do so, I'm not responsible for any option you are doing. Okay. So it's showing email sent out successfully. Okay, I'm just checking this temp email. Wait. Yeah. So now this temp email got the email from which mail? Helpdesk at kpntravels.in test. Okay, see if they this SPF record is a very simple issue, but if they fail to fix this SPF record, that make the application too big issue. See for example, if an attacker spoofing the CEO mail and sending mail to HR team or finance team like so this is CEO. Okay, so just consider scenario here, attacker spoofing the CEO mail and telling to the HR team or finance team like send amount to this account. So what generally the finance team or account team can do, if they are not properly trained, they can there is a possible they can change the amount to the user, but this is very low level issue. But how the attacker can exploit it, this is actually you need. Okay, so this is why all the companies are hosting their most of the companies are hosting their product and application for a bug bounty to find the external issues. So for example, hacking is not only the thing following a write-ups or following the thing what we found in a classes or in any write-up videos. Okay, it is a thing how you can exploit in a different manner. For example, if there is a issue, so using the issue how you can produce another issue in different way, so that is actually hacking. So that is why most of you challenging. Okay, they if they are hosting, if they're challenging for a bug bounty, they know what all the general vulnerabilities like XSS, SQL injection, CSRF, SSRF, LFA, RFA, everything. Okay, but they need what are all the different ways to exploit their business logic. That's all they want. So that is why they host open bug bounty program. So I hope you all understand why bug bounty is now important. And I'll just tell you about what are all the penetration testings are there and how you can write the report. So we can exploit any application in this live session itself in a different method. Okay. See, in penetration testing, so there are many sort of penetration testing. So there like a web application pen testing, mobile application, API, thick client, scalar, network, infra, hardware, RF, IoT pen testing. Many penetration testings are there, but generally, if we take a application oriented penetration testing, then this pen testing will comes under this. Okay, like web application penetration testing, mobile application. Okay, see for example here I'm taking one site for the reference. Okay, you can tell me whether it is a website or a web application. So this is Anna University. If you are okay, so I hope some of you have an idea about Anna University in Chennai. Okay, so just for example, I'm going to Anna University site, or so I'm taking a very famous IIT Madras. So I hope you all know IIT. Okay, so I'm just getting into this IIT Madras. So is this a website or a web application? Okay, so Facebook, LinkedIn, IRCTC, Amazon, Flipkart, these are the web applications. See, generally this IIT Madras and Anna University, these are the website, okay, which means it having only a static content. So you have to understand the difference between static and dynamic. Static won't change. Dynamic can change in any moment. Okay, so these are the static page. So this everything is fixed. For example, if I click this industrial consultancy means it redirect me to this page. That's all it can do. And the major difference between a website and web application will get input from the user and process it. So for example, if there is any site which is getting user input and processing the user input, that is a web application. See, this IIT Madras is a static page. It doesn't getting any input from the user. Just see, now you can say, yeah, it have the search box means only the search box doesn't means it is a web application. Okay, but here I'm going to this Amazon. It is a web application because here they are getting user input and processing all the user input. See for example, here I can able to make a search like I'm searching for a MacBook. See here, when I search for MacBook, what comes in my result? It's showing all the possible result to the MacBook. Okay, now they are getting user input and processing the user input, not only on the search box. Even in this Amazon, I can able to create an account, I can able to log in account, I can able to make a payment transaction, I can able to set the map location, I can able to buy the product, sell the product, I can able to make a comment over any product, I can able to change country, forgot password. See, for all this application will not look like same. For example, if I'm logged in with my Amazon account, that will be like difference. It may comes based on my preference and last searches and last orders. If you have logged into your account in Amazon, it will comes preference based on your last orders and searches. Okay, so for everyone this application will be not in a static, it will be a dynamic, it will be changed from each and every person and every moment. Okay, especially they are getting and processing the user input. If any site processing the user input, there that is application. Okay, this static pages are the website. So now I hope you all clear with the website and web application difference. So generally we can find more vulnerabilities in a web application only, not in a website, because website is a static page. Okay, that be very less issue. But when the application is processing the user input, there only you can able to find some issues. Okay, so this is a difference between website and web application. And next one is a mobile application pen testing. So if you are doing a web application penetration testing, your target will be the URL. So your target, your customer or client will provide you the URL. You have to start all your testings from the URL. In mobile application penetration testing, it will be comes under two category like Android application and iOS application. So what is the file for Android application? APK. Okay, so if you are doing any Android application penetration testing, they will provide you the APK file. Through the APK file, you can start your testing. And if you are doing iOS application pen testing, so what will be the file for Apple? IPA. Okay, so APK is Android package, IPA is iPhone application. So whenever you're doing any testing, they provide this file and you can start your testing from these files. So this is generally happen when you do mobile application pen testing. And next one is API. I hope you all know about API. Okay, so generally API is used to connect back end to the front end. So this is generally API can do. And not only this, it can do many things in real world. So with or without knowledge, we are using APIs in all the location in daily of our time. So for example, we take example for of a Uber application. We all know Uber, Rapido, Ola application. So generally what these applications can do, Yeah, so for example, here just we can take a Delhi as example. Okay, I'm new to Delhi. I'm coming to Delhi, and I'm new to Delhi. I want to travel on place. So what I can do, I can take Uber application or Ola application or Rapido to book cabs. So this is the basic business of the application, right? So generally, why we use this application for booking cabs? Okay, so which is the very important functionality in this application? Map. Okay, see, is it without map? Is it possible for this application to make work properly without map support? Yes. Okay, without map, this application won't work because everything will be rendered with map only. So using map only, you can able to select your location and your destination and what all the cabs or scooters available near to your location, how much time it takes, what is the best route can reach your destination. Everything will be based on your map only. So without map functionality, this application won't work. For example, see, so here I like to create an application like a Rapido. Okay, so here I'm the person, I want to make a startup and I like to create a product like Rapido. So in my application also I need a map functionality. Is it possible for me to set up the satellite and rendering, processing all the data to get all the Earth overview of map image? Is it possible for a startup, or not even a startup, even a big four? This is a big project. They can't able to do this everything. So instead of that, what I can do is, so right now, who is the good map service provider in world? Google Maps. So what I can do is, instead of doing all the process, I take Google Map API keys and I import Google Map API keys into my application. So now my application also have the Google Map functionality. Okay, so simply what I do, I take Google Map API key and I import that into my application. Now my application also have the same functionality. Now you ask a question, what is the profit for Google for this? Means generally they gave their API keys as a free, but if more users are using your application, more people are came to know your application and you are making business over that, means they can charge you according to that. Okay, according to the usage they will charge you. Now you can have one more. Why they are giving a API key instead of something, means they can't able to give you the entire source code because the entire source code is their business product. They can't able to give the entire source code of Google Maps. So instead of that, they use the Google Map API key. That API key is the reference which may connect with actual Google Map source code, and it may interact your application and Google Map source code to make work on. So this is generally API. So it also comes under application pen testing, but API will not comes unique for all the like web or mobile application. When you are testing web application, you also need to test the APIs, because if the application are using or passing any APIs in the functionality, you have to test those APIs. The same thing in mobile application also. Okay, and there is one more application like thick line based applications for executable file. Okay, so generally the executable files in Windows, there we can perform the thick client application. Okay, so generally we all know web application, anyone can able to access the website, and mobile application, it comes under two platform, Android, iOS, and also you know about API. This thick client applications or a Windows application, you can take it for your reference. Okay, it is a Windows application. So generally if you are installing any file in Android phone, you need a APK file. If you want to install any file in iPhone, you need IPA file. If you want to install any file in Windows, then you need a exe file. Okay, so you can able to run or execute two files in a Windows. One is .exe, another one is .dll. Okay, I'll tell you the difference between this exe and dll. Exe is an executable file and this exe is an independent file. And next one is a DLL. DLL is a dynamic loader library. This DLL is not an independent file. If you want to execute a DLL file, the libraries or modules you are using in a source code have to be present in that system. Then only you can able to run that. I'll tell you the clear cut example in practically. Okay. See, first what I tell, exe is a independent file. You can able to run exe in any machine. Okay, you can able to run it on any machine, but DLL you can't. Okay, so generally, yeah, okay, so this is source code. For object code, okay, source code is human readable. Okay, so we can able to read and analyze source code. Object code is a machine understanding. Okay, why I'm telling about source code and object code is you have to know about compiling. Okay, so when you create a source code, for example, if you want to create an Android application, you create a you make a source code, you make a coding in a Java. Okay, after that what you can do, once after all your operation, you can compile the file to be to produce as a APK file. Okay, then you compile and make it as a APK file. Then the compilation process is important. See, that is why exe files are a normal in executable files, because exe file will comes once after all the compiling, so we can able to run anything. But DLL files, see. So here I'm making a simple Python script for your clear understanding. Uh, test.py, just 2 minutes. So here I want to ping a target IP. Okay, so for example, here I'm creating a simple Python script that get input from the user and ping the target. So this is the Python script going to do. I'm just writing a simple source code for that. I'm just making import subprocess. Okay, so I'm just calling call. Just wait, I'm creating a variable here. Uh, IP equal to, get the IP. I'm calling the variable here. So this is the application. Okay, so the very simple script I created using Python, and I'm just running the script. See what happened. Python 2 test.py. So it asking me the IP address. So just for example, here I'm giving my loopback IP. Okay. See now it making pinging. Okay. See now what we make. So this is the general application. I'll show you. Okay. Once I run the script, it asking the user to enter the IP address. So here I'm writing the IP address. Okay, after that what it makes, it just making pinging, because this is the instruction we have given in the source code. See for example, now what we are doing, we getting user input and processing user input in the terminal level, right? We are getting user input and processing the user input in the terminal level. So for this operation, okay, for this operation I need the subprocess module. Okay, see for example, here this is a Python script. Okay, but you consider I am using older version of Python. In that older version of Python, the subprocess module will not available. Means is this script will work or not? See, this is Python. The subprocess is available in Python library. Okay, in your system default Python library. For example, here you are using a very older Python version, and your Python doesn't have this subprocess module in the library. So if this script in this case it will work or not? It won't work. Okay, because even the subprocess is available, but it is not available into your system. So this is the difference between exe and dll file. Dll is a dynamic loaded library. So what are all the functions and modules used inside the dll file, it should have to be present inside your system. If your system doesn't have that library, means it won't run. Okay, so generally when you're doing a thick client testing, your target might be a exe or dll file. I tell you the difference between thick client and thin client application. So before that, is anybody having any idea on thick client and thin client application? If it is a thick client application, all the operational process runs in the same machine. For example, we take a Outlook application as the example. Okay, see how Outlook application generally works. What is generally Outlook application? Why we use that? Okay, so for general email, we can use Outlook application. So where all our email data will store. For example, if I sign in my Outlook in a different system, all this data comes to there or not? All my sending and inbox data will come in that system or not? For example, here just simple question, I am signing my Outlook account in a different machine, so that I can able to see my previous inbox input and sent items or not. Is it possible to send? See, yes, everything there we can able to see, because all this data and process everything will be done by the server. Okay, so this Outlook application is a thin client application, not a thick client. Outlook is a thin client application, because all the process will be done by the server only render all the data, because without internet we can't able to use that application. And for a thick client, we take a Photoshop application as the example. See, if you are working with a Photoshop application and if you want to render the image, means which one will render? The application render in the same system, or application send the image to the server and server make rendering? The Photoshop application will make the picture to run, compare everything in the same machine, render everything in the same machine. So that is a thick client application. So any application running and processing all the performing in the internal local machine, that is the client application. So these many types of applications are there, like web application, mobile API, thick client. So generally you can able to do penetration testing against this everything. But before entering into the penetration testing, you have to understand the minimal knowledge of how the application is working. For example, if you want to exploit SQL injection, then you have to know at least some basic SQL. So for example, we can see about what is SQL injection. Two things is possible. One is information disclosure. So attacker can able to see all the internal data. Authentication bypass. Okay, using a SQL injection, we can able to make authentication bypass. We can make it as a practically now. Okay, because when we are going everything in a theory, that will be not good. Even if I was a listener, I never like theory from my trainer. So that is why the thing what I say in a theory concept, that is very important for you all to understand what is exactly penetration testing, bug bounty. Because if you want to perform, you want to choose a platform, so you have to first understand what is bug bounty. So that is why I take this everything in a theory, but we can see practically SQL injection now. So for this I take a random websites. Okay, so in URL. So I hope you all know about these Google queries. So if you don't know, if there is another session, I'll teach you everything about this Google query. Also, there will be many interesting things in Google queries. You can get more sensitive or leaked database also using this Google Docs. Okay. Okay. So I'm just taking some random login pages. Okay. So, but these login pages are not a normal login. These are all admin login pages. Okay. See, for example, here I am just getting into this page. What it asking me? User ID password. Okay, so what might be the username? Might be some of them having a same default username like admin and password as admin, but we are not 100% sure either that may be correct or not. Okay, so how we can bypass, how we can test whether this application is vulnerable to SQL injection or not, and how we can make authentication bypass here. So for that, we have to understand the basic logic of how generally SQL is working. So what is SQL? SQL is a structured query language which is used to construct and maintain database. How this SQL can work? In the name itself, structured query language. Generally, how the query works behind the logics. How the logic can be defined based on the conditions in true or false. So how the logic can work? Simply based on the booleans like true or false. If it is true, then it make process. If it is false, then it will not make process. See, here I'm writing a very basic SQL script how the backend will be like. This is not an exact code, just for reference I'm writing like a how the backend code will be like for this username and password. Okay, so if you are using any username and password, it is like in a backend. So select anything from username. So that is the first input, username or yeah, username equal to. And yes, developer most of the not most of the all the secure developers will get all the user input as a string only, because string only not execute. Instead of that, if they are getting user input in a different data type, that may execute, that may leads to the big issue. Okay, so that is why I'm giving this two single quotes, and here I'm giving the password. So they are getting two input from the user. One is username and another one is password. This is how the basic backend will be looking like. So if you are entering any username, for example, here I'm entering username like XYZ means, so it will be look like this. Okay, like XYZ. So these single codes are in hidden. Okay, so this single code will be present in before the box, and this one. Okay, see, this one is present in the out of the box. Okay, like same for the password also, this two single quote. What are all the inputs you are giving into the application, that will be get inside the two single quotes only generally. Okay, so here what I can do is, before exploiting or before creating a payload, we can see some logic of how the boolean operators can work. So in the operators, we are going to see about two operators and two gates, AND gate and OR gate. Okay, simply we take OR gate is additional. Okay, OR gates refers to additional, AND gates refers to multiplication. This is right. Yes, okay. OR gates
Yes.
refers to additional, AND gate refers to multiplication. So for example, here I'm writing 0 or 0 equal to, just wait. Okay, I'm copying this same. Okay, so what R refers to? Addition. Okay, so you can consider this R as a plus addition. Okay, so 0 plus 0, what will be the output? 0 plus 0. 0
One.
plus 1. 1. So, and next we can see about this AND gate. What AND refers to? AND refers to multiplication. So, see, 0 multiplied by 0, what will be the output? Super. Now you take the reference as 0 is a false and 1 refers to true. Okay, now see, if both in OR gate, okay, in OR gate, if both condition are, if both statement are false, okay, in OR gate, if both statement are false, because the 0 refers to false, then what will be the output? If both statement are false, then what is the output?
False.
False. If one false, one true, then what will be the output? One true, one false, what will be the output? True. Both statement are true, then output is true. This is in OR gate. So generally, if we get any one true statement, okay, if we have any one true statement, then output will be true. Okay, if we have a two false statement, then only output is false. Either might be any one true statement, output will be true. But in AND statement, okay, so in AND gate C, if two statement will be false, output is false. One false, one true, output will be false. One true, one false, output will be false. If both conditions are only true, then only the output will be true. Okay, so this is an AND statement. Okay, in AND gate. Okay, in OR gate, we need at least one statement might be true. Okay, if one statement is true, then output is true. But in AND gate, what we need both statement as a true. So here I am writing query for along with the same. Okay, I'm just copying and pasting the inputs here. See, now I'm just so for example, I'm just giving some space for all your reference. Okay, see here I am writing the username test. Okay, so this spaces I'm just giving for clearing, making your views and reference only, not for something. Okay, so here in the username, if I type a test, okay, for example, here I'm typing not even a test. Okay, I'm just going with the username xyz. Okay, if I'm entering xyz in this username box, then it will be look like this one, xyz. See now, what is the username? But it is xyz. Okay, and how they are getting this user input inside the two single quote. Okay, so the inside, so if the any data inside the single quote or double quote means, it will be treated as string. So string generally never execute. See, so for that, what I am doing is, here I am giving a single quote manually. So these two single quotes are in the back end of the application, but this is the single quote I am giving manually. So what happened, the single quote will be compromised to this one, so the string will getting closing here. So if I give a single quote manually, then what happened? This single quote will compromise with this single quote, and this XYZ is become the username. Okay, now I am forcing the application to do some operations. So here I am using OR gate and I am giving one. Okay, see, this is first statement and this is second statement, but we are using OR gate. Okay, in OR gate, see, first statement we are not sure whether the username is xyz or not. It might be xyz, but not 100% sure. It might be true or false. But what is the second statement? Is it true or false? even if the first statement might be false but the second statement is true, so what will be the output? In our gate, if any one of the input is true means what will be the output? Either the first statement might be false, the second statement we are giving is true, so output is a true. So here I am giving one as a output. See now totally how many single quotes are here? Seven single quotes. Okay, in this seven, this first and last single quote is in backend of the application, is present backend of the application. Remaining these five single quotes we have given manually. So in this five single quote, this single quote is compromised with this one, and this single quote is compromised with this one and this two, and the last this single quote will remain same. We can't able to remove the single quote because this is in a backend, but we can do one thing. What is generally commenting in programming? So for example, if you make any line command, that line will never execute. Okay, so here I am giving hyphen hyphen space hyphen. For SQL, we can give hash or hyphen hyphen space hyphen or hyphen hyphen plus. Okay, so these are the commands in SQL. Okay, so hyphen hyphen space hyphen hyphen plus. So these are the commenting statements in SQL. So if I make a comment, then after the comment, what is here? Here is the single quote. This single quote got eliminated because I make a comment. So after the comment, everything will be eliminated. So have you clear with how I create this payload? Okay, so now see what is the general term of the username. It is true or false. General term of the username is true or false. What it refers to, what is the final output of username? True. Okay, and for the password, also true. Okay, password also true. But inside the username and password there is a one gate which is AND gate. Okay, see now one and one, if both statement are true in AND condition and gate, then what will be the output? So finally the payload we are
True.
creating here is refers to the true condition. Okay, see here I'm just taking the same payload and copying and pasting on the username and password. See, yes, now it makes authentication bypass and we log in into some application dashboard. Okay, so showing courier entry, we courier. Surprising. Yeah. Okay, so we can try it in some other different applications. Don't see. Oh God, it also getting. So it's showing COVID test, agency diagnostic. Okay, so GD lab. So we can see all data. So now we have login as an admin user, I guess. Okay, because we have login through admin dashboard. Yes, it's showing a logout, which means we have login. And yeah, I'm giving the same payload here. Yeah, so you can give the same payload as a username and password. It is based on the condition. Okay, the value we are giving is a true. So for this two side, this payload is not working, which means these two sides is not a secure one. Okay, so might be this payload is not working. If we can give any other payload, there will be a chance to exploit. Uh, Once after trying all the payloads, if it is not working, then only the application is secure. If the application is open with any one of the payload, then the still application having the issue. See, this application is getting logged in, and I'm pasting the same username password. Okay, yeah, it also getting login. Okay, so this is actually authentication bypass using SQL injection. So why I'm telling you this practically means if you want to perform more about authentication bypass, even extracting data in a database or like information disclosure using SQL injection means you have to know some basic SQL statement like select, order by, and so these are all the statement you need to understand generally what is SQL, what is the difference between MySQL and PostgreSQL, how you can give another different SQL statement to get different input. Okay, so this everything you have to understand. So that is why when you are doing a penetration testing, you have to understand completely back end of the application, how exactly it is working and how everything inside the application is making processing. And that is very important. Okay, so now I hope you all get some idea about what is penetration testing, the importance of penetration testing, and what is exactly you can do in pen testing. Okay, now I'll tell you some of the platforms where you can do penetrate bug bounties at all. Okay, the very famous platform we all know, the hacker one and bug so you can just make a user account in hacker one bug. I hope you all know. If you don't know, I'll tell you about those sites also. Hacker one. So this hacker one is an open source bug bounty platform. For example, if I am the application, if I have an application, I want to make sure my application is fully secure or not. So then what I do is I log into this hacker one and I make my application challenge to all the hackers. So I just give my application to all the hackers to make test over it. If they find any issues in my application, they report that issue and I'll give rewards or any hoodies or any. like acknowledgement based on the issue they are finding in my application. So this is one of the good platform where you can learn HackerOne, Bugcrowd. Okay, so this bug code also like same as HackerOne, so where many companies will come and host their applications. So you are a bug bounty hunter, you have to test the application to find the issue. If you find any issue in their applications, then you can report the issue. So based on your issue type, for example, if you find any low level issue, they give you acknowledgement email for your effort. If you have find any medium or high level issue, they can give you the reward, hoodies, swags, or if you find more critical issue, they give you big reward as well. Based on the company and the issue you're finding, they give you the rewards. Okay, and you can see many bug bounty platforms are there. You can search it for online, and even for finding anything. For example, if you want to research something, and see, now we make authentication bypassing using SQL injection. So authentication bypass, HackerOne. So for example, you can make a research, you can make a, you can like make a research over this. See, for example, now anyone making authentication bypass in HackerOne and have reported the into hacker into that application. Okay, you can see how they exploited authentication bypass. See, now we have given one payload. Here they give another payload. See, I guess it is from Uber. Okay, you can see what is the payload they are giving. How they also show you how they exploit this vulnerability. So how you can reproduce the vulnerability. But the time when you are seeing this application, no vulnerability can exist, because if it is vulnerable, then they never release one. Once after fixing everything, then only they can release into publicly. Okay, but you can understand what exactly they are doing, how different method they are exploiting the issue. That is very important, because the same method will not work in all the time. So you have to do different methods, make more and more R&Ds to exploit something. See, here you can read what they're exactly doing. So every day can give their write-ups and how to find the how to reproduce this issue, how they exploited this one, everything. Okay, so you can make a more research like this. And the importance of making a issue, okay, issue reporting, that is very important. Okay, so I'll tell you about that, how you can do that. Okay. um, what we can, so first thing, how you can approach your target. So honestly, I'll tell my methodology. For example, if it is a web application, how I approach that web application for the bug bounty hunting or penetration testing. So I take a penetration testing as a reference. So for example, I consider that is a e-commerce application. Then how I do penetration testing, how I can make approach over the application. So first, what I do is I say segregate the application into four parts. One is before login, while login, post login, while logout. So before login, what are all the possible vulnerabilities are there, like host based vulnerability, like host data injection, same site cookies, uh, s- weak session logout policy. Okay, sorry, session based policy, like session ID is changing or not when you are making login, and SPF record, security headers. These are the things I can check with before login. And while logging, it is majorly gone through the authentication bypass and IDA. So using authentication bypass, I can try to bypass whether we can able to get into the data or not, or we can perform IDA to execute our privilege. For example, if you change any parameters, then sometimes in some application functionality it may leads to the higher privilege user. Even if you are low privilege user, that may leads you to perform higher privilege operations. Okay, and post login attack, like a SSRF, CSRF, not a CSRF in post login, SSRF, or SQL injection for extracting databases, local file inclusion, remote file inclusion, XXE, okay, OS command injection, code injection. So many possible vulnerabilities are there that I can check. And in post login, I check with the same session based scenario, like weak session logout policy. So this is how you have to understand the application. So generally you have to understand the business logic of application. See, if it might be a product, any e-commerce site, then I can give the special approach, special importance or care to the payment gateway, how they are using, how they are calculating the payment. See, generally I'll show you one thing. Okay, see, for all your reference, if you did anything wrong, then I'm not responsible. Now itself I am giving you a notice. Okay, if you did anything wrong, I'm not responsible. Just for education purpose and knowledge, I'm showing you. So you have to understand each and every functionality. For example, you know one concept mean that even not enough. You have to understand each and every functionality, how it processing in the application. That is very important. See, so just wait, I'm logging into my machine. Okay, for example, I'm going with the site of VGP Universal. You can see this trick, okay? I guess it might be a 600 rupees per head or not. So we can see something. Okay, so for 650 for auto and 550 for side. Okay, I'm just going with buy now, and it asking me the options to do this. Okay, so before that, I'm just configuring my proxy. So for here, here proxy. I'm using the famous burp shoot tool. Okay, and I'll tell you what are all the tools you can use for your web application pen testing also. So that so this is the new Linux machine. Actually, my system is in some repair, so I am using my friend system. So that is why not everything is installed here. Please wait. Mhm. I'm just using my own thing. It's this burp shoot is really a good tool. So what generally the burp shoot can do is it intercept the request. For example, we know that we are sending a request to the server. We don't know how the request exactly going to the server. So using this burp shoot, you can able to intercept the request. You can able to see what all the parameters are passing, what all the request status body is passing through it. So you can able to analyze. You can able to tamper it based on your want. Okay, so you see here I'm giving a buy ticket. Okay, so here I'm just giving a buy now. So at asking name, I'm just giving my name as John, phone number 98765432110, and email just John at email.com. Okay, so it asking me a date. For example, I'm just setting it for this Sunday. Okay, because I also belongs to the same city. Number of adults 20, number of students I'm just choosing to 10. Select category, I'm just choosing any combo or gold. Oh, combo. So I'm just making it to proceed. See now what it asking. See now how much it asking for me to pay. 36K. Okay, so the same I'm doing here. I'm just giving a username John and phone number the same 543210 and John at email.com. So I'm just choosing any different data or anything. Just for example, I'm doing. So I'm giving the same 20 here the 10. Okay, see the team. Just I'm making intercept on and I'm tampering I'm intercepting the request. See now these data are going in the request. I'm just tampering the price amount. I'm see here the amount parameter is passing. I'm just reducing the amount to 10. Okay, that from 36,000 rupees to 10 rupees. I'm making forward and intercept off. Please wait. Yes, now it is asking me for the payment. How much it asking me now? it is not fixed. See, even if I'm giving my UPI, it asking me only 10 rupees, not even 36. It was asking only me 10 rupees. Yeah, this is so this is how you have to understand the business logic. See, I am sharing you my one of my personal experience. So when I'm testing one application, so I can't able to reveal the application name. Okay, so that time we can't able to tamper the data, okay, price amount, but we can able to tamper the quantity. Okay, so for example, there is a mobile phone having a cost 10,000 rupees. One phone equal to 10,000 rupees, but you can able to order 100 phones in the same 10,000 rupees. That is possible. So in sometimes you can able to tamper the scratch card. Okay, so you have to understand each and every functionality of the application. That is very important. So that is why I show you this example, but don't do for any malicious activity. If you do so, I'm not responsible for any suspicious thing you are doing. Okay, and yes, I'll tell you what are all the things have to be present inside your report. So if you're creating a proper report, your report you have to understand, you have to explain the vulnerability. For example, just consider there is a SQL injection vulnerability in application. So first thing you have to tell about what is SQL injection vulnerability. And next thing you have to place your POC, where you found out, how you exploited. And the third one you have to say the impact. Okay, the second one you have to prove the proof of concept, like you are exploiting the application. You have to take the screenshot and have that is your proof you have exploited. Okay, and third one you have to see the impact of the vulnerability, how dangerous it might be, what are the business logic based uh, different and challenges will come based on the issue. And third one you have to give the remediation, how you can fix this vulnerability. And fourth one you can give the remediation, fifth one you can give the reference, how, for example, how to fix this authentication bypass vulnerability. So this is very important for all the report creation. You first you have to explain the vulnerability. Okay, and next we can go with POC, and you have to tell about the impact of the vulnerability, and third you can give the remediation, how to fix that, and finally you can give the reference. This is how you can prepare the proper report for all your VAPD. So this is what exactly the agenda for the session also. Okay, so how you can start bug bounty, what are the platforms, how you can make a report, how you can understand the bug bounty logic. So I hope you have learned something in the session new. And once again team, thank you so much for coming. Thanks a lot everyone. Okay.